Tessa and I had been together for 3 years, yet she still wouldn't say yes to my proposal. Then, out of nowhere, she fell head over heels for my stepbrother, Eli, and made no effort to hide it. She chased after him boldly, unapologetically. But this time, I didn't cry. I didn't wait around for her to get bored and come running back like she always did. Instead, I threw out every gift she'd ever given me. Cut up the tux I'd secretly bought for the wedding that never happened. On her birthday, I left Boston alone. Right before my flight, Tessa texted me. "Where are you? Everyone's waiting." I just smiled. Said nothing. Blocked her on everything. What she didn't know was that 2 weeks earlier, I'd said yes, to Lauren, my college best friend. And once the plane landed in Seattle, we were getting married. "Lauren, I've made up my mind." I stood in front of the mirror, staring at the pale, worn-out version of myself. Turns out, making one of the biggest decisions of your life isn't as hard as people say. "Noah, will you marry me?" Her voice drifted softly through the phone, gentle, hopeful. Lauren always had that calm in her tone, like she never needed to raise her voice to be heard. My throat tightened. I nodded instinctively, even though she couldn't see me. "Yes, Lauren. I will." Her quiet joy traveled through the line. "Noah. I'm so happy. You know, back in college, I used to dream about this day." Somewhere in the reflection, I noticed my lips had curved into the faintest smile. "Give me 2 weeks," I said. "Let me close things off here." "I'll wait for you," she replied. "Noah, I'll be right here." As soon as the call ended, the door to my room flew open. "Noah." It was my father, Robert. He cleared his throat, voice stiff, eyes unsure. "There's something I wanted to run by you. Eli hasn't been feeling well lately. And, well, your room gets better sunlight. We were thinking maybe you two could switch rooms for a while." I didn't answer right away. My eyes drifted past him, to where Margot, my stepmother, stood watching. Beside her, Eli lingered like a shadow. I just stared. Margot jumped in quickly. "Oh, Noah doesn't need to go through the trouble." Eli followed right on cue, all wide eyes and wounded sweetness. "Yeah, Dad. I'm fine, really. I don't want Noah to be upset because of me." "What trouble?" my father said, brushing it off. "You're my son too." Then he turned to me, his tone firm, eyes lined with expectation. "Noah, you're the older one. Try to be more understanding." I stared at him, stunned. I thought I'd feel hurt, maybe even furious, that my own father could show more tenderness toward a stepson than to the boy who shares his blood. But I felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Just a strange, weightless clarity. And then I smiled, genuinely, and nodded. "Sure," I said. "I'll switch with him. In 2 weeks, I'd be gone from this house forever." What room I slept in, no longer mattered. My father looked pleased, relieved, even, as if my obedience was proof he'd raised me well. Margot gave a contented little smile, satisfied with how neatly the situation had wrapped up. They left the room. But Eli didn't. "I can help you pack," he offered, standing in front of me with practiced innocence. But as he glanced slowly around my room, his room now, there was something in his eyes he couldn't quite hide. Smug. Triumphant. Like he'd won. I didn't think Dad would actually say yes to switching rooms. Eli's voice was light, almost casual, but carried that familiar undertone, the one he always used when he wanted something and pretended he didn't. "You mad at me?" he asked, tilting his head slightly. "I mean, I did just steal Tessa, and now I've taken the bedroom you've had for 10 years. I didn't answer. I turned away, heading for the closet to pull out my suitcase. Behind me, I heard a sudden yelp. "Ah, ow." I turned just in time to see Eli crumple to the floor, dramatically clutching his arm. He'd slammed it hard against the corner of the desk, already swelling, bruising deep and fast. Noah! What the hell? Tessa's voice sliced through the air. I hadn't even heard her come upstairs, but there she was, storming into the room with fire in her eyes. Her heels clicked sharply against the floor as she rushed to Eli's side. She crouched low, her touch soft as she helped him up like he was made of glass. "I'm okay," Eli mumbled, wincing through a forced little laugh. He didn't mean it. "You're not okay," Tessa snapped, her voice trembling as she inspected the angry mark blooming across his forearm. "It's already bruising." Her face was filled with concern, tender, protective. But when she looked up at me, that tenderness vanished, replaced by something sharp and glacial. "Noah," she said tightly, "if you've got a problem, take it out on me. Don't you dare hurt Eli. He's been through enough." Her voice dropped, low and cutting. "Not like you, born with a silver spoon in your mouth, the golden boy who's never known pain." I thought I was past the point of letting her affect me. I thought my heart couldn't break over Tessa anymore. But I'm not made of steel. I'm not some indestructible force. I'm just a man, ordinary, flesh and bone. We grew up together. We fell in love. 3 years. And in a matter of days, she gave her heart to someone younger. Softer. Someone who knew how to make her laugh and pout at just the right moments. And me? I became the villain. The cold, bitter animal in the corner of the room. I didn't want to feel sad. I didn't even want to feel anything. Hell, I wanted to laugh. But when I finally spoke, my voice cracked, raw, brittle. "Tessa, you've known me all your life. Don't you know who I am?" For a split second, her expression flickered. Her eyes softened, just barely, as if something inside her hesitated. But then Eli spoke, softly, with just the right amount of fragility. "Tessa, don't fight with Noah because of me." His voice trembled, as though he was holding back tears. "He's upset with me, and honestly, I get it." He trailed off, like the weight of it all was just too much for him. Tessa's eyes shifted back to mine, and whatever momentary doubt she had was gone. Her gaze turned cold. "Final. You're jealous," she said quietly. "Jealous that I love him. That I care about him. That everyone does. You're not the same Noah anymore. There's something twisted in you now, isn't there?" She didn't wait for an answer. She just turned and led Eli out of the room, like he was the one who needed saving. I watched them walk away, their silhouettes disappearing down the hallway. And suddenly, the last trace of sadness inside me was gone. Just like that. Maybe it was for the best. These past few days, Tessa had broken my heart more times than I could count. But after tonight, I was certain, I wouldn't be hurting over her ever again. That night, our iMessage group chat exploded. Tessa had dropped a message out of nowhere. "Is it weird that I suddenly want to get married?" The chat lit up instantly. "Oh my God, Tessa, are you finally marrying Noah? Congrats to Noah, haha. Spill the date, girl. When are we toasting champagne at your wedding?" The teasing came in waves, one message after another flooding the screen. I was about to type a reply, to clear things up, that whoever she wanted to marry, it wasn't me. But Tessa beat me to it. "What are you all talking about? I never said I was marrying Noah." And then, right on cue, she added Eli to the group chat. She tagged everyone. "Look closely. This is the man I'm marrying." Silence. The kind that creeps in when a room full of people suddenly doesn't know what to say. After a minute or two, the first tentative responses trickled in. "Hey, Eli. Welcome." I stared at the screen. Paused. Then typed out a short message. "Congratulations. Wishing you both the best. And with that, I left the group chat. I had barely exited the group chat when my phone lit up with her name. Tessa. I answered. Her voice came through, sharp and commanding. Noah. I need you to come over. Now. Where? I asked, already knowing the answer. The usual place. Why? To apologize to Eli. There was a pause on my end. Then, apologize? For what? For leaving the group like that, she snapped. Do you even realize what people might be thinking about him now? Her tone was cold, unyielding. I don't want anyone speaking badly about Eli, she continued. I'm the one who chose him. I want to make that clear. He's innocent, Noah. He doesn't deserve to be labeled someone's side piece because you couldn't control your emotions. I thought I was past this, past letting her twist me up inside. But her words landed like punches to the chest. My hand tightened around the phone, fingers trembling with the effort not to let it show. My voice shook as I finally spoke. Tessa, why are you doing this to me? Why do you get to be the one who hurts me, and still act like I'm the one who did something wrong? I didn't lash out. I didn't start a fight. I even wished you well. Was that not enough? My voice cracked, raw and splintering under the weight of it all. On the other end, silence. For a moment, it almost felt like she might soften. Then came her answer. Noah, she said flatly. I'm willing to let this go, just this once. But remember this, Eli is innocent. Don't take your anger out on him. Don't hurt him. And with that, she hung up. I sat on the couch, trembling. My whole body felt like it was buzzing, numb and hollow all at once. From the nightstand, my mother's portrait watched over me, her eyes as gentle and warm as ever. Suddenly, a sharp ache rose in my chest, flooding my throat. I rushed toward her, collapsing to my knees, clutching the frame to my chest. Through the cold pane of glass, I pressed my face to hers. And for a moment, it felt like she was grieving with me, mourning what I had become, what I had lost. I didn't want to cry. I didn't want her to see me like this, even from beneath the earth. I didn't want her soul to carry the weight of my sorrow. Once her memorial passes, I'll take the things she left behind for me, the pieces of her I still have. And I'll leave Boston, for good. I'll never come back. Eli moved into my old room not long after. I didn't take his. Instead, I chose a guest room, one no one really used. The sheets the housekeeper brought were damp and cold. The mattress hard as a slab of stone. I didn't bother changing. Just laid down, fully dressed. Only a few more days. If I could make it through that, it would all be over. Early the next morning, I came downstairs, and froze. In the corner of the living room, the memorial table we'd set up for Mom, her photo, the fresh flowers, the candles, was in shambles. Her portrait lay face down on the floor, the glass frame shattered, the picture streaked with dirty shoe prints. The smile she wore in that photo, once warm and serene, now looked like it had been crying. The candles had tipped over, melted wax pooling on the hardwood. Flower petals were scattered everywhere, crushed, torn. And in the middle of it all, Eli's dog was nosing through the mess, chewing at the petals like it was all a game. Eli stood a few feet away. Clapping. Clapping. My vision went white. Rage surged through me so fast it drowned out every other thought. All the restraint I'd held onto cracked in an instant. I grabbed the nearest vase and hurled it at the floor, where it exploded in a shower of glass. The dog yelped and darted away. A jagged shard sliced across Eli's arm as he flinched back, his scream ringing out, shrill and theatrical. Noah! Are you insane? How could you hurt your own brother? Robert's voice boomed from behind me. Eli, pale and trembling, immediately darted behind him. "Dad, he's trying to hurt me." Robert stepped forward, his face red with fury. "Noah, that's enough. You're completely out of line." I stood there shaking, my finger pointed at the wreckage, voice cracking as tears finally broke free. "Can't you see what he did?" I choked out. "He destroyed Mom's memorial, Mom, Dad. He stomped on her photo. Look at it." Robert's eyes flicked to the floor. He frowned, but only slightly. His voice, when it came, was cool. Unmoved. "That still doesn't give you the right to lash out." He looked at me like I was the one who had lost all sense. "Noah, your mother's been gone a long time. The living matter more than the dead." Eli spoke up, his voice soft, timid, perfectly timed. "It was my dog. He knocked it over by accident." I was going to apologize, but Noah came running in and just started yelling. I didn't even get a chance to explain. He lifted his bleeding arm slightly, just enough to highlight the red streak, his eyes wide with pain as he looked at Robert. Maybe Mom and I should move out," he added, almost in a whisper. "Maybe it's better for everyone." Robert turned to me, eyes burning. "Eli's young and doesn't know better. But what's your excuse?" Before I could speak, before I could even breathe. Slap. His hand came down hard across my face. I didn't flinch. Didn't move. Just stood there, stunned. Even he seemed surprised by it, his hand lingering in the air for half a second too long. But he said nothing. Just turned away and took Eli by the arm, leading him off to clean the wound. And I was left standing there. Alone. The sting of his hand still burning hot across my cheek. I touched the swelling skin, fingers trembling. And then I laughed. Not from joy, nothing like that. It was the kind of laugh that comes when there's nothing left to hold on to. Because in that moment, I finally understood. There was nothing left of Mom in this house. And there was no place for me in it anymore. In the middle of the night, I was jolted awake by screaming, someone sobbing, someone shouting. I had barely sat up in bed when the door slammed open with a violent kick. Margot burst in, crying hysterically. Before I could even register what was happening, her hand came down on my face. Once. Twice. 3 times. Each slap hotter and harder than the last. "How could you be so cruel?" she screamed. "It wasn't enough to hurt him during the day, you want him dead now?" She collapsed into Robert's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. "He knows Eli is allergic to perfume, and he still poured it all over his pillow and bedsheets," she wailed. "He did it on purpose. He wanted to kill him." Robert wrapped an arm around her shoulders, his voice low and soothing. "Enough, Margot. Don't cry. Eli took his meds in time, he's okay." Then he looked at me. That look, cold, tired, like I was a burden he hadn't asked for. "Noah," he said quietly, "you've disappointed me. I want you out tomorrow. If we keep you here, you'll tear this family apart." Margot's sobs ceased instantly, mission accomplished. I stared at the man in front of me. The man who had once been my entire world. The man who used to love me with everything he had. I was his only child. And now, I was a stranger. Somewhere along the way, it had all changed. And I had become the unwanted one, the discarded protagonist of someone else's story. For a long time, I fought it. I argued. I yelled. I begged for something, anything, to stay the same. But now, I understood. Whatever bond we'd once had. It was gone. Completely. Forever. The day I moved out of the house. I gathered every photo Tessa and I had taken over the years. Every snapshot with Robert, too. One by one, I cut them into pieces. Then I burned them all. Finally, I pulled out the diamond ring I'd bought long ago, tucked away in secret. I'd bought it right after Tessa confessed her feelings to me. Back then, I'd imagined the moment 1,000 times, slipping it onto her finger, watching her eyes light up. But that chapter was over now. Finished. Completely. The last things left were the gifts Tessa had given me over the past 3 years. Some were quirky little trinkets, full of inside jokes. Others were expensive, watches, jewelry, luxury pieces she'd chosen with care. I separated the valuable ones, packed them carefully, and made arrangements for a friend to hold on to them. Once I left Boston, he'd return them to her. That way, there'd be no debts left between us. No emotional strings. Nothing. Once, I couldn't even throw out a silly keychain she gave me. It had meant the world to me. Now, tossing it into the trash didn't stir a single thing inside me. When it was all done, I took my mother's portrait, wrapped it gently, with deliberate care, and tucked it into the inner lining of my suitcase. And then I walked out. Didn't look back. Not once. Not at the house I'd lived in for 10 years. Not at the people I used to call family. It was over. And I was finally free. As I stepped out the front gate, Tessa's car happened to pull up. I didn't look. Not even a glance. But the car slowed, and stopped right beside me. The back window slid down, revealing her face. Beautiful as ever. Almost unreal. My gaze swept past her, brief and indifferent. I didn't break stride. Noah. Her brows drew together. Where are you going? I said nothing. Just kept walking. Then she opened the door and stepped out in heels. Do you want the driver to drop you off somewhere? No. Thank you. I stepped aside, avoiding her touch. Kept moving. She caught my wrist. Noah, why are you being like this? She gave a light tug, voice soft but coaxing. If you'd just swallow your pride, like before, I might change my mind. I pulled free, meeting her gaze with steady calm. You don't need to. No more apologies. No more hoping she'd have a change of heart. I was done. Worn out. Spent. Fine. Whatever, she said with a scoff. But doubt flickered in her eyes. Because she didn't believe me. She couldn't. For years, no matter how badly she hurt me, I'd always stayed. Always waited for her to come back, silently, faithfully. She'd grown used to that. Everyone around her believed I would never walk away. So did she. I picked up my suitcase and turned to leave. Behind me, I heard Eli's voice. Tessa, you're here. He walked over and took her hand without hesitation, his touch familiar, casual, like it belonged there. Are you feeling better? He asked. Tessa brushed the hair from his forehead, inspecting him like a worried nurse. Much better, she said. Eli gave her a sweet, innocent smile. Don't be mad at Noah, okay? This is really my fault. If I weren't so weak, Dad wouldn't have asked Noah to switch rooms with me. And then Noah wouldn't have taken it out on me. Tessa's gaze hardened. How could this possibly be your fault? She glanced at me and, as if to drive the point home, gently touched Eli's cheek. It's him. He's petty. Always has been. Come on, she said, her voice soft again, turning back to Eli. Let's go inside. You're still a little flushed. Okay, he nodded. I stood there and watched them walk away, arms tangled, heads leaned in, too close, too perfect. Like some strange pair of conjoined twins who had mistaken codependence for love. And yet, I felt nothing. Not bitterness. Not jealousy. Not even the old, familiar ache. My heart was still. A silent lake untouched by even a ripple. Tessa's birthday came and went in the blink of an eye. In the past, I would have had her gift picked out weeks in advance. Booked a hotel suite. Decorated every corner of the space with care. This year, I bought nothing. And I wouldn't be there to celebrate. At 5 p.m., I was in the car on the way to the airport. Messages kept coming in, one after another. Even Robert had started texting me. Where are you? Everyone's already here. Noah, you need to be the bigger person. Tessa's going to be part of our family soon. If you don't show up, people will talk. They'll think there's some huge rift between us. I stared at the screen, almost laughing. Not a single reply. Instead, I blocked his number, just like that. As I approached the gate for boarding, another text popped up. Tessa. Where are you? Everyone's waiting. I smiled to myself. Said nothing. Blocked her too. Then I stepped through the gate. And I didn't look back. By 7 p.m., the party still hadn't started. Tessa sat on the edge of the sofa, idly twisting the ring on her finger, her expression unreadable. Every so often, she glanced at the time on her wristwatch. And now and then, she'd unlock her phone, only to stare at the screen a few seconds longer than necessary. Tessa. Eli gently tugged at her sleeve. It's getting late. Everyone's hungry. She looked at him and smiled, but something about the smile didn't quite reach her eyes. You mean you're hungry? She pinched his cheek playfully. I'm starving, Eli grinned, leaning in closer. Can't wait to get to the cake. As he leaned near, a faint scent reached Tessa, soft, familiar. She paused. Inhaled, puzzled. What cologne are you wearing? She asked quietly. Oh, Eli blinked, caught off guard. I just grabbed something from the makeup room. Why? Does it smell bad? Tessa shook her head. No, it smells good. But it wasn't his scent. It was Noah's, a cologne he wore so often she could almost hear his voice when it drifted past her. She couldn't recall the brand. Just the memory of it on his coat. On her skin. In her bed. The party carried on around them, full of laughter and noise. Someone started a cake fight, shrieking as frosting flew across the room. Tessa slipped away. Out onto the terrace, phone in hand. The screen was still quiet. Not a single message. Not even a missed call. She stood there, staring at it. Noah had once promised he'd never miss a single birthday. But he had. And so easily, too. Tessa's eyes darkened, lips curling into a cold, humorless smile. Noah, are you dead or something? Can't even bother to reply. She hit send. But the message failed. A red exclamation mark appeared on the screen, small, but glaring. She'd been blocked. Without hesitation, she dialed his number. Call failed. Disconnected. Tessa stood frozen on the terrace, staring out at the heavy curtain of night beyond the garden. A slow, choking heat rose in her chest, rage or something close to it, impossible to name. She was the one who didn't want him. She was the one who had chosen someone new. She had grown tired of his presence, tired of his quiet loyalty, and pushed him away. And now, everything had gone exactly the way she'd planned. So why didn't it feel like a victory? By the time I landed in Seattle, I didn't call Lauren right away. Instead, I went to see Jason, my best friend from college, the one person who'd known everything back then. I had something to tell him. Something big. But for now, I just didn't know how to say it. What I didn't expect was to run into Lauren at the very dinner party Jason had arranged for me. She stood at the entrance of the private room, dressed in a simple black dress, a soft wool shawl draped over her arms. Behind her, the hallway lights spilled across an ornate mural, casting shimmering shadows against the walls. But she stood just outside that glow, as if even the light knew better than to compete with her. It had been years since I last saw her. She looked older now, not in age, but in grace. There was a softness to her that hadn't been there in college, a quiet strength in her posture, in her gaze. And now, she wasn't just an old friend. She was my fiancée. My face warmed unexpectedly. I dropped my gaze, fingers twisting together without realizing it. Why was I nervous? Jason, meanwhile, lit up like a kid at Christmas. "Lauren. What are you doing here?" he laughed. "Had a client dinner nearby," she said casually. "Saw you all and thought I'd crash." Her eyes met mine, steady, unhurried. She looked at me for a few seconds longer than necessary, then looked away. "You don't mind if I steal a seat, do you?" "Mind?" Jason laughed. "We've been trying to bribe you to show up to one of these." "Seriously," someone else chimed in. "You're the VIP we can never book." Lauren smiled, finally stepping inside. "Then I'll take full advantage," she said. "Don't mind if I do." She ended up sitting directly across from me. Everyone took turns greeting her, diving into cheerful conversation as if no time had passed at all. Everyone but me. I kept my head down the entire time, too afraid to meet her eyes. But Lauren didn't seem interested in letting me off that easily. "Noah," she said suddenly, her tone light but unmistakable. "Has it really been so long that you've forgotten how to look me in the eye?" My name on her lips caught me off guard. I looked up, reflexively, only to meet her gaze. She was smiling, but there was something unreadable beneath it. Calm. Collected. And just a little amused. It took me a few seconds to find my voice. I stood, lifted my glass, and said, "Lauren. It's been a while." Her eyes didn't leave mine. "It really has," she replied softly. Then she raised her glass and clinked it against mine. I downed the drink in one go, the burn trailing down my throat as I eased back into my seat. Before I could recover, Jason nudged me sharply and leaned in. "Okay, what is going on with you two?" "What do you mean?" I asked, too quickly. He tilted his head, grinning like a kid with a secret. "From the second she walked in, she's been watching you like a hawk. You didn't notice? You're imagining things." Jason smirked. "Please. If there's one thing I know, it's when there's tension between a guy and a girl. And my friend, the air is thick." I pressed my lips together, trying not to look at Lauren again. But my heart was pounding. Wild. Unsteady. And I knew he wasn't wrong. After graduation, I went back to Boston with Tessa. And just like that, Lauren and I stopped seeing each other. Aside from the occasional holiday greetings on Instagram, we hadn't spoken in years. Not until recently, when Tessa began openly chasing after Eli. That's when Lauren reached out. Since then, we'd only exchanged a few calls. Nothing more. And tonight, after agreeing to her proposal, this was the first time we'd seen each other in person. We hadn't even held hands. And yet Jason was already acting like we'd had some grand, hidden affair. "Hey, Lauren," one of the guys called out, suddenly grinning. "You seeing anyone these days? I've got this friend, ridiculously good-looking. Want me to set you up?" The whole table perked up, laughing and teasing. The mood lifted instantly. Not to be outdone, Jason chimed in, grinning wide. "If she's single, why not Noah? Tall, smart, good-looking, Ivy League grad, come on, you two are a perfect match." I nearly slid under the table. My face flushed, and my palms were damp. I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt this awkward. Then, in the middle of all the noise, Lauren's voice cut through, soft, composed. "All right, Jason," she said with a small laugh. "Don't tease Noah. He's always been the shy type, even back in school. Jason gave her a mock-wounded look. Are you defending him now? Lauren, are we seeing some favoritism here? She smiled, but said nothing. Didn't deny it, either. I glanced up at her, just for a second. And she was already looking at me. Our eyes met. I dropped mine immediately, heart pounding all over again. A message lit up on my phone. Lauren, wait for me after dinner. I'll drive you home. Me, okay. Lauren, good boy. I didn't reply. But my heart was racing. When the dinner finally ended, I waited for Lauren downstairs in the lobby. That's when my phone rang. Boston. One of our mutual friends. Noah. Haven't seen you around lately. What've you been up to? Just handling some personal things. Ah, got it. Well, a bunch of us are getting together tonight, you should come. I smiled faintly. Nah, you guys go ahead without me. Wait, don't hang up yet. It's actually about Tessa. I tensed slightly. She's not doing well tonight. Drank too much. Won't listen to anyone. If you're free, could you come? We're worried she'll end up in the ER again. You should call Eli, I said flatly. She kicked Eli out. There was a pause on the line. Look, Noah, everyone can see it, she's not over you. She regrets it. I exhaled slowly, my grip tightening around the phone. Zach, I said calmly, we broke up. She's not my responsibility anymore. And going forward, I don't want to hear about her again. Please don't call me for this. Not anymore. Just as I finished speaking, noise burst through the phone, loud voices, shuffling, like someone had snatched it away from Zach. I was about to hang up, not interested in any of it. But then her voice came through. Noah. They called you on their own, I didn't ask them to. Same tone as always. Aloof. Sharp. Too proud to sound vulnerable, even now. Okay, I said. Then I'm hanging up. Noah. She said my name again, quieter this time. I could hear the slur in her voice, the heavy drag of alcohol sinking into her words. Once, that would have made me panic. I would have begged her to stop drinking, tried to coax her into taking care of herself. But now? Her well-being wasn't mine to carry anymore. I hung up. Paused. Then quietly started deleting her friends from my contacts, Zach included. They had only ever been hers. And now that she and I were truly over, there was no reason to keep any of them around. Noah. Her voice came from across the lobby, soft, but clear. I turned. Lauren was standing just ahead, illuminated by the warm glow of the chandelier above. Light danced across her face, casting it in soft golden haze. Lauren. I stood, ready to meet her halfway, but she was already walking toward me. There was a slight sway in her steps, like she wasn't entirely steady. Maybe she'd had too much to drink. Or maybe it was something else. I didn't hesitate. I rushed over and caught her before she stumbled. Lauren, hey, are you okay? Did you drink too much? She gave a faint nod, her brows furrowed in discomfort. The pain was clear on her face, some combination of the alcohol, the noise, the night itself. Noah, my car's outside, she murmured. Could you help me get to it? Yeah. Of course. She leaned heavily into me as we made our way across the lobby. Most of her weight was on my side, and though it wasn't far, we were clumsy, stumbling, half laughing, half struggling down the corridor. When we reached the car and she slid into the back seat, I started to pull away, ready to let her settle. But suddenly, her hand caught mine and pulled me forward. The soft scent of wine clung to her breath, layered over that familiar, warm perfume that always felt like Lauren, intimate, elegant, just a little wild. I froze. And in that split second of hesitation, she wrapped her arms around me. "Noah, will you hold me for a while?" she whispered. "Lauren," I breathed, but her hands had already found my face. She cupped my cheeks gently, pulling me closer. "You're really Noah, right? I'm not dreaming this?" She was so close. Her breath tangled with mine, every inch between us pulsing with heat and history. In her eyes, shimmering with the blur of alcohol, I saw everything. The disbelief. The longing. The ache of something lost too long. My chest tightened painfully, like something inside me was folding inward. "Lauren," I whispered. "You're not dreaming. It's me. I'm Noah." I didn't get to finish. Her kiss landed before I could say another word, warm and desperate and full of everything we hadn't dared to say aloud. It was the lightest kiss, soft, barely there. Gentle to the point of aching. Before I could even process it, Lauren had already pulled away. I must have looked stunned, caught somewhere between confusion and panic, because she noticed. She took my hand, gently guiding me upright, settling me properly into the seat beside her. The car had started moving. Lauren reached forward and lowered the partition, closing us into a quiet, dimly lit space. I felt suddenly unsteady again, like the silence itself was pressing in. But then she let go of my hand. "Noah," she said softly, "you don't need to worry. I'm not going to cling to you." She gave a small laugh, dry, almost teasing, but with a trace of something more fragile underneath. "We're not married yet. You still have every right to change your mind. You're free. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it." I looked down. Swallowed. It took me a long moment before I could lift my eyes back to hers. But when I did, my voice was quiet and certain. "I'm not going to change my mind, Lauren." For the first time that night, something bright bloomed across her face. A smile, not careful or polite, but wide and full of joy. "Noah," she whispered. She reached out her hand. I didn't hesitate. I took it. And held on tight. Tessa was drunk again. No matter how her friends tried to calm her down, she wouldn't listen. She wasn't even sure what exactly had her spiraling lately. Maybe it was Eli, maybe the novelty had worn off, and she was finally seeing him for who he really was, ordinary, predictable, not at all what she'd built up in her head. Maybe, she just missed Noah. Missed his quiet steadiness. The way he listened without interrupting. The gentleness in the way he always seemed to understand her, before she even spoke. The last time her friends called Noah, it had been under her silent approval. She hadn't told them to call, but she hadn't stopped them either. She'd hoped, expected, even, that he'd come. But instead, he just kept saying no. Calm. Distant. Refusing without raising his voice. She'd lost her temper, grabbed the phone, said those sharp, stupid things in a burst of frustration. And he? He said nothing. Just hung up. Didn't show up. Didn't call back. Didn't come to find her. Even after they told him she'd drunk too much, that she might end up in the hospital. Still, nothing. Tessa didn't want to admit it, but in that moment, something inside her had panicked. Still, she quickly soothed herself with the narrative she knew best. Noah had loved her for too long. Too deeply. 3 years together, this wasn't some fleeting crush or passing infatuation. She knew exactly how devoted he'd been. How much he had given to that relationship. So maybe now, he was just angry. Just hurting. But walk away completely? Let go for good? Tessa didn't believe it. Not for a second. Tessa, are you trying to drink yourself to death? You have any idea how worried everyone's been these past few weeks? One of her friends snatched the bottle from her hands, voice gentle but firm. We just called Eli. He's on his way to take you home. Please, Tessa, just stop. But something snapped inside her at the mention of that name. Tessa shoved her friend aside, the bottle slipping from the table and shattering across the floor. Who told you to call him? Did I ask you to call him? He's your boyfriend. Who else are we supposed to call? My boyfriend? She laughed coldly, eyes glassy and sharp. Do any of you even know who my boyfriend is? The room went quiet. Her friends exchanged uncertain glances. Tessa, you do remember you and Noah broke up, right? Yeah, someone added cautiously. You told us yourself, you were going to marry Eli. Noah even wished you well before he left the group chat. You and Eli were planning your engagement. I'm not getting engaged. Tessa waved a hand, and someone reluctantly opened a new bottle for her. Tessa, seriously, you can't keep drinking like this. And what makes you think I'd listen to you? She shot back, pouring herself another glass. Of course you wouldn't, one of them muttered. You've only ever listened to one person. If Noah were here, you'd have gone home quietly hours ago. You wouldn't be sitting here, one drink away from the ER. Tessa said nothing. But she didn't deny it, either. One of them pulled out their phone. Fine. I'm calling him. If he can't talk some sense into you, we're out of options. But what none of them expected, was what happened next. The call didn't go through. Every single person in that room tried. And one by one, their calls failed. Their numbers had all been blocked. The room went still. The air grew heavy, thick enough to choke on. No one said a word. Tessa sat on the couch, her expression distant, like something inside her had gone quiet. Noah's probably just really angry, she murmured. Of course he is, one of her friends said gently. Tessa, you broke things off so abruptly. And then you got with the guy who's technically his stepbrother. Anyone would feel betrayed. Anyone would be hurt. He's been living alone ever since, hasn't he? Another friend spoke up, hesitant. Tessa, maybe you should go see him. Go to his apartment. Try to talk to him. Suddenly, her mind flashed back to that day, when Noah left the Chen family home for good. Dragging 2 oversized suitcases behind him. He never looked back. That house had been his. Those people had been his family. And in the end, it was all taken from him. Robert became Eli's father. And she, Tessa, had thrown herself into Eli's arms, drawn in by youth, by novelty, by all the wrong things. She'd discarded Noah like he was nothing. But now, the image that haunted her most was the way Noah had looked at her that final day. Not with anger. Not even sadness. Just emptiness. Like she was no one. A stranger passing through his life. Forgettable. Tessa stood up suddenly, heart pounding. But just as she moved toward the door, it opened, and Eli stepped in. Tessa. That same timid expression. That same quiet voice that always made him seem like the one who'd been hurt. You've been drinking again? He asked, moving closer. You're going to wake up with a headache tomorrow, you know. He reached out and gently took her arm, his tone full of concern. Warm. Familiar. But tonight, it felt suffocating. Tessa was just about to speak when it hit her, a familiar scent, subtle but unmistakable. Her chest tightened. She was about to pull away from Eli's hand, but stopped mid-motion. What's that smell? She asked softly. It's really nice. Same as last time? Her voice was casual, but her eyes sharpened. Eli's smile faltered. But he nodded anyway. Yeah. The same one. He tried to sound light, eager to please. But something dark flickered beneath his skin. Because he knew exactly what she was smelling. The cologne came from Noah's old room. He'd found the bottles, luxury brands, untouched, still sealed in their boxes. His first instinct had been to smash them all, to erase every trace of the man who once had everything. But Tessa had loved that scent. Only that one. He'd tried others, tried to make them his own, but every time, she turned away with that barely concealed look of disdain. So now, he wore Noah's cologne. Held his breath when he sprayed it on. Swallowed his pride when she leaned in closer. "As long as you like it," Eli said, smiling again. "I'll wear it every day if you want." He tilted his head, the soft lines of his youthful face catching the light just so. Charming. Beautiful. But in that moment, Tessa's face shifted. Something inside her snapped. She shoved him, hard. "Tessa?" Eli staggered, startled. His voice cracked with confusion. Everyone in the room froze. "Tessa," a friend whispered, glancing around, unsure. But she didn't look at anyone except Eli. Her expression was blank. Her voice steady. Almost too calm. "Eli." Her tone wasn't sharp, but something in it chilled the room. And anyone watching could see. She was furious. Absolutely furious. "Tessa, what's wrong with you?" Eli reached out again, trying to grab her arm, his voice full of confusion and concern. But this time, Tessa didn't just pull away. She slapped him. Hard. The crack echoed across the room like a whip. "Tessa. You hit me?" Eli stared at her, stunned, clutching his cheek with wide, wounded eyes. But Tessa only let out a low, humorless laugh. "Oh. I hit you?" she sneered. "Aren't you the one who's allergic to cologne, Eli? Didn't you cry to me, tell me Noah had the housekeeper spray it on your pillows? That he was trying to kill you?" "I am allergic," Eli said quickly, panic creeping into his voice. "Dad knows that, he was the one who found out Noah had the maid do it." "Still lying?" Tessa stepped forward and slapped him again. Even harder. His face whipped to the side, and a hush fell over the room. Her expression twisted, all traces of charm gone. Rage and disbelief burned through her words. "Eli, did you forget which cologne you're wearing right now? The one you said almost killed you. The one that's Noah's favorite." Her voice cracked, barely. "The one I bought for him. Over and over again. I just forgot." She let out a breathless laugh. A hollow sound, almost a whisper. "I forgot so many things," she said, as if to herself. She had forgotten how deeply Noah had loved her all those years. Forgotten how completely, how earnestly he gave himself to her. She'd forgotten the quiet, unwavering devotion they shared for 3 whole years, forgotten how desperately he had once dreamed of building a life with her. She'd even forgotten the look on his face the day she ended it. The way his eyes turned red, quietly, without a word. The way he accepted it all, without protest, silent, dignified, heartbroken. She'd forgotten the man she once loved with her whole heart. Forgotten how gentle he was. How good. How kind. She had loved him like a treasure. And then thrown him away like he was nothing. She had forgotten too much. And now, she was paying for it. Eli's eyes widened in panic. His face turned ghost pale, his entire body trembling. "So all this time, you were lying. You manipulated him. Lied to me. Lied to Robert." Tessa's voice was ice. "Eli," she said, each word sharp as glass, "I must have been blind to fall for someone so full of deceit." She shoved him hard, and he stumbled backward, stunned into silence. He stood frozen, mouth open, searching, desperate, for something to say. Anything. But there was nothing. The cologne was proof. It was all anyone would need. And he'd worn it like a badge, never imagining it would betray him. He had been too smug. too certain he'd gotten away with every lie he'd ever told. Tessa looked at him one last time. "I'm going to tell everyone who you really are." Then she turned, walked to the door, and slammed it behind her. The driver sped the entire way, and by the time they reached Noah's old apartment building, Tessa was practically out of the car before it had come to a full stop. She looked up. His windows were dark. Not a single light on. Maybe he was asleep. But she couldn't bring herself to leave. She needed to see him. To say she was sorry. To tell him everything, beg for forgiveness, if she had to. But no matter how many times she rang the buzzer. No matter how hard she knocked. Noah never came to the door. Eventually, a neighbor, clearly fed up with the noise, called building management. That's when Tessa finally learned the truth. Noah had moved out. Long ago. And this apartment? He'd already asked the building to list it for sale. He was gone. Where had he gone? Was he still in Boston? Would he ever come back? Tessa didn't know. She knew nothing. Only one thought spiraled through her mind now, relentless, breath-stealing, terrifying. Like a beast lurking in the dark, waiting to strike. She had lost Noah. And not just for now. She might have lost him forever. Truly. Irrevocably. In the days that followed, the truth began to unravel. All the lies Eli and Margot had spun, the poison they'd planted against Noah, were finally exposed. One by one, the house staff stepped forward to speak up. To defend him. To tell the parts of the story no one had wanted to hear. And when the reckoning came, Eli and Margot were thrown out of the estate. It was a spectacle. Disgraced, abandoned, and humiliated, they were cast out like rabid dogs in the street. No sympathy. No mercy. No one to defend them. Tessa stood alone in the garden, surrounded by a bed of withered crabapple blossoms. Her eyes reddened, slowly filling with tears. Crabapple trees would bloom again after winter. But some people, once they leave, never come back. In the days since, Robert had tried everything to reach him. Again and again, he called. But every time the line connected, the moment Noah heard their voices, he said nothing, then hung up without a word. When he left Boston, he took everything his mother had left him. Everything that truly mattered. The estate was nothing now. A hollow shell. And they all knew, deep down, he was never coming back. Not far from where Tessa stood, shouting erupted. A woman's voice rang out, angry, shrill, broken. Margot's voice. Crying. Screaming. Cursing. The masks had fallen. With the dream of wealth shattered, Margot and Eli had revealed exactly who they were, sharp-tongued, venomous, without pretense now that there was nothing left to pretend for. Open the suitcases. I want them checked, Robert said, standing at the top of the steps. His voice was weary. His shoulders slumped. The sharp, commanding man he once was, now looked old. So very old. Tessa turned to him, and for a moment, all she could feel was pity. For him. For herself. For all of them. How pathetic they had become, how foolish. What a cruel irony, that they had all conspired, in their own ways, to drive out the one person who had loved them most. Noah. Kind, gentle Noah, who had done nothing but give, and give, and give, until he finally left. And now this? This was justice. Cold. Relentless. Present tense retribution. The moment they were told to open their suitcases, Margot and Eli began to scream and wail, throwing themselves to the floor, grasping at any last shred of control. But it was useless. One by one, the dozens of oversized cases were pried open, despite their protests, despite their thrashing. Beneath neatly folded layers of designer clothing lay stacks of luxury handbags, jewelry boxes, and high-end watches. "Anything that's not clothing," Robert said, his face stone cold, "they don't take with them." The command was final. The guards moved fast. Margot shrieked, diving forward in desperation. Eli followed, clawing at velvet boxes and zippered pouches like a drowning man. But the security team didn't flinch. They were shoved aside, hard. The valuables were pulled out and piled separately. Even the accessories on their bodies were stripped away: rings, earrings, necklaces, bracelets, watches. Eli fought like hell. He screamed when they tore the watch from his wrist. By the time they got it off, his arm was mottled with bruises. But the man who used to call himself his father didn't even blink. Robert didn't look at him. Didn't speak to him. Didn't offer so much as a sigh. He simply waved his hand, dismissive, cold. Like he was brushing away an insect. "Get them out of here." And so they were dragged to the gate, banned, broken, and penniless. At the door, Eli made one last desperate stand. He threw his arms around the iron gatepost, holding on like it was his last lifeline. "No. Tessa," he howled, voice cracking. "You can't do this to me. You slept with me. You think any man will want you now? Noah won't take you back. He won't. He won't." By the end, he was shrieking, foaming with rage, eyes wild and unfocused. A madman. A ghost of what he once pretended to be. "Tessa?" Robert turned and looked at her, his voice worn, cautious. She felt a wave of revulsion rise in her throat. She wanted to laugh, but couldn't. How had she ever fallen for a man so pitiful? So disgusting? "Robert," she said, stepping closer, her voice low but steady. She looked him in the eyes, the man who now looked years older, hair streaked with gray, shoulders sagging under the weight of his own blindness. "I never slept with him," she said. "I swear to you, I never had sex with Eli." Relief washed over Robert's face like a tide breaking. "That's good," he whispered. "That's good." He waved his hand again. The guards didn't hesitate. Margot and Eli were dragged out, their screams and curses finally fading into silence. All that remained was stillness. The sun was setting, slow and heavy, casting long amber shadows across the once grand estate. Robert and Tessa stood there in silence, their gazes falling upon the stretch of crabapple trees in the garden. Withered. Bare. Sleeping under spring's warmth, unmoving, lifeless. They were Noah's mother's favorite flower. After she passed, it was Noah who had tended them each year, pruning, watering, coaxing them back into bloom. And now that he was gone, the blossoms had withered, too. As if the garden knew. As if the flowers, like the boy who once cared for them, had chosen to leave. Robert wiped at his eyes, his voice cracking with age and something deeper, shame. "I failed Noah. I failed his mother. I failed him. Tessa. I was a fool. I made a promise to her. I swore I'd protect him. Love him. Always put him first. And I broke that promise." He looked at her, eyes glassy with tears. "Do you think I'll pay for it someday? Do you think there's a punishment waiting for me? Noah, he must have been so heartbroken. So humiliated." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Tessa, his mother's portrait, it's been restored. I've already called for the house to be renovated. Everything will be just like before. Do you think?" He paused, swallowing hard. "Do you think Noah might come back home?" Tessa didn't answer. She had no answer to give. Or maybe she did. But it wasn't one she could bear to speak aloud. The night pressed in around them, thick and heavy. She looked at Robert, this broken man, and forced herself to smile. Forced herself to comfort him. Robert. Noah's always had a soft heart. She couldn't say more. She couldn't bring herself to finish the sentence. Because deep down, they both knew. They knew exactly who Noah was. How gentle he was. How forgiving. And still they had hurt him. They had cast him aside like he didn't matter. And now? Now they stood in the ruins of what they had done. Together. Alone. Too late. Lauren and I were married the following spring. Just as we'd once joked about back in college, Jason stood beside me as my one and only groomsman. I didn't tell anyone from Boston. No family. No friends from that life. But somehow, word still got out. On the day of the wedding, my father and Tessa showed up. Lauren was the one who told me. She sent someone to find me and ask what I wanted to do. When I entered the bridal suite, the makeup artist was finishing her work. I looked up, caught my reflection in the mirror. And hers. Lauren, my bride. The makeup was heavier than usual, as tradition demanded, and for a moment she looked almost unfamiliar. Almost. Like the crabapple blossoms she had planted just for me outside our future home, blooming shyly, vividly, beautifully. I was in black. A classic tuxedo, tailored to precision. Handsome, by any standard. She caught my eye in the mirror. I caught hers. And for that brief moment, we smiled, just a little. Soft and knowing. I don't want to see them, I said. Lauren didn't hesitate. All right. I'll have someone ask them to leave. Thank you. I meant it. The past, those people, those wounds, no longer belonged in this chapter of my life. Some scars will fade, in time. Some won't. But either way, I've stopped trying to force myself to carry what was never mine to carry. I no longer owe the past anything. And today? Today, I get to begin again. Everything was in place. The ceremony had begun. I stood at the altar, bouquet in hand, watching Lauren walk toward me in her white dress. I didn't wait for her to reach me. I moved forward, unable to resist, and reached out my hand, eager, breathless, needing to hold hers. She reached for me too. And in a sea of cheers and laughter, of warm blessings and wide smiles, our hands found each other. And didn't let go. Lauren lifted her face and kissed me. We didn't care who was watching. The world disappeared. We kissed like it was the first time, long and slow and aching. So long that she had to pull away just to breathe. Noah, she whispered as she slipped the ring onto my finger. I love you. I loved you long before you knew, and I'll love you long after today. I looked down at her, smiling with tears caught in my lashes. Lauren, I said softly. I'll do my best to love you. Really love you. She leaned in, wrapping her arms around me, her voice tender against my chest. Okay. The wedding was extravagant. Every detail exquisite. But more than that, it was ours. Joyful. Luminous. Unapologetically full of love. Outside the venue, Tessa and Robert had remained. They weren't allowed inside. And they didn't try. They stood at a distance. Watching. Listening. But not interrupting. As if even they knew. This chapter didn't belong to them anymore. But Robert didn't make it to the end of the wedding. Midway through the ceremony, he collapsed, his heart giving out without warning. An ambulance rushed him to the hospital. They brought him back. But he never woke up. Tessa, on the other hand, stayed. She remained outside the venue the entire time, never stepping forward, never turning away. She didn't know why, but Noah's best friend, Jason, had never blocked her on social media. And because of that, she saw it all. Through Jason's Instagram stories and tagged posts, she watched the wedding unfold, frame by frame. Tessa had already known who Noah was marrying. Lauren. His college classmate. The girl he used to mention often, praising her, admiring her. Back then, Tessa and Noah had only just begun to blur the line between friendship and something more. Every time he brought Lauren up, it made her uneasy. Jealous. Eventually, Noah must have sensed it. Because after that, he never mentioned Lauren again. He even started distancing himself from her entirely. But in the end, after everything, he still married her. And as Tessa watched, she saw the truth with painful clarity. Lauren loved him, truly, deeply. She didn't need words to know it. It was there in every photo, every clip, every lingering glance Lauren gave him. The kind of look that says you're my whole world. And for a moment, just a moment, Tessa saw a ghost of her old self. She had loved Noah that way once. With the same sincerity. The same fire. Until she convinced herself she was tired. Bored. Until someone younger, louder, and more exciting caught her eye. She let go of Noah like he was disposable. And in doing so, she lost him. For good. Now, as she watched another woman walk into the future she once believed would be hers, Tessa finally understood. By the time she wanted to go back, it was already far, far too late. Noah and Lauren got into the car and drove away. Were they heading home? To their home? Tessa couldn't quite name the feeling rising in her chest, bitter, hollow, and sharp all at once. She had heard things, rumors, mentions in passing. Their home was said to be surrounded by crabapple trees. Whole gardens of them. And now it was spring. The most beautiful time of year. The crabapple blossoms must be in full bloom. Radiant. Delicate. Loved. Just like Lauren was. Tessa drove back to Boston alone. It was late, well past midnight, when she turned onto the highway. The road stretched out before her, wide and empty. No headlights in sight. No one else around. She pressed her foot down harder. The engine roared, the speedometer climbed. Faster. Faster. At the last second, she yanked the wheel. Closed her eyes. The car veered violently. A deafening crash tore through the night as metal twisted and glass exploded against steel. And then, silence. Peaceful, almost. If there was another life waiting for her. Another chance beyond this one. She wanted to return to that first year. The year she met Noah. And this time, she would love him right.